The call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday, and welcome back to the Pod at the Palace. I'm your host, Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas. We are 1 day away from the weekend and just over 1 week from Arkansas's exhibition opener against Cincinnati. That's crazy, man. This show, a week from today, is going to be a game preview. How about that? Time flies. Can't wait. And getting a little bit spoiled right now. I'm getting in college basketball mode. I've been watching Auburn just messing around with Oklahoma State in their exhibition that they were streaming on YouTube. But it just goes to show you, like, I feel pretty confident that Auburn is going to have a better season than Oklahoma State basketball this year. But they look pretty evenly matched in this exhibition. So don't panic if Arkansas struggles a little bit against Cincinnati, and don't overreact if they play really, really well against them. But we've learned those lessons over the past few years with, Purdue and the Texas exhibition, and those results don't mean anything, but we just can't wait to watch these guys play against somebody else. A fun show lined up for you today. We're going to talk about some of these perceived strengths and weaknesses of this basketball team. We're going to do some role allocation. We're going to talk about the Alpha Dogs. We're going to try and reconfigure and make sense of how the minutes might shake out in this rotation this year. I got to be honest with you, it's kind of hard to put together without someone sort of getting screwed. So there's that, but no more time to waste. Let's get right into it first by welcoming our partners, our sponsors for today's show, and some of our newest partners here at Inside Arkansas. It's Drain Masters of Arkansas, officially licensed in plumbing and drain cleaning while serving the River Valley, Northwest Arkansas, Oklahoma, and beyond. They're ready to handle all plumbing and drain cleaning needs with professional, reliable service. To request a service, give them a call today at 479-646-5585 or scan the QR code on your screen. You can also like their Facebook page at Drain Masters, Inc. Be sure to tell them that Inside Arkansas sent you, and you get 10% off of all of their services. Anything and everything plumbing related, no job is too big or too small. It's Drain Masters of Arkansas, and they've got you covered. Okay, so I saw an article pop up. You guys know the drill here in my feed, CBS Sports, of course, but it was really interesting. It was titled Strengths and Weaknesses of Each Top 25 Team from the AP poll. So before even clicking it, I put my thinking cap on and I said, all right, what does this probably look like for Arkansas? Because when the roster was assembled and going into workouts and practices, I probably would have said the strengths for this team, continuity. Obviously, that's such a big part of the roster construction here. Athleticism. I think it's going to be a really good rebounding team. I think they've got more offensive creation, versatility, just rattling a few things off the top. Weaknesses, 3-point shooting, maybe, rim protection we talked about, or shot blocking maybe. Depth at the four to a degree. Fast forward to today, though, I kind of feel the same about a lot of Arkansas's strengths. Even though Cal is kind of on their necks about rebounding, we heard him at SEC Media Day. And then on the flip side, I think I'm less concerned, maybe even optimistic, actually, about Arkansas's 3-point shooting. I think they could be a pretty decent, shooting team from the perimeter. I wonder a little bit about free throws, but that's kind of based off the one scrimmage that we've seen. Rim protection, I don't know. Like if Trevor Brazil is going to ask, if he's going to average 4 or 5 blocks like Cal said that he should, then they're going to be fine there. I think that's, a little bit ambitious, but he can be more impactful from that standpoint. And we'll know a lot more about that here in about 10 days after these next couple exhibitions that they've got coming up. But, I would not say defense is a concern at all, but I will say I need to see more out of a couple players in particular before, I'm sold that they're going to be on the same level as they were last year, which was pretty stingy. That was an elite level defense by the end of the year. But at any rate, let me pull up the Arkansas blurb and show you what CBS Sports thinks about this particular discussion. I thought this was pretty interesting. So let's see. And you can see their projected starting lineup. It hasn't changed. DJ Acuff, Knox, Brazil. They like Nick Pringle at the 5. Could go either way there, whatever. Biggest strengths. Arkansas's raw athleticism jumps off the tape. Knox, Brazil, and Richmond are ridiculous athletes who breathe different air than the rest of us. Pringle is so big and strong inside. Acuff and Wagner are twitchy, chiseled league guards. the Hogs can overwhelm you in a hurry. I got to admit, this paragraph about the strengths and the athleticism, it got me going. The Hogs can overwhelm you in a hurry. That's music to my ears. I kind of like the way that sounds. I'm not going to lie. Weaknesses, though, potential weaknesses, it says, by the way, I want to clarify there. Role allocation is something this team has to figure out. Is Acuff the alpha? Is it Knox? Ewan will want his touches. Thomas is wired to score when he checks in. Wagner still has those moments where he wants to go make a play. The collection of talent is obvious, but Arkansas's pecking order is far from settled. This is a pretty interesting route to take, right? Role allocation as a weakness. I don't know. Identifying the alpha and the pecking order. I don't know. I think rather than label this a weakness, and he said potential for what it's worth, but I would say this is kind of something that most teams in the country are doing in October. But I will say it's valid for Arkansas in terms of being something that they're going to need to figure out. And it's a good problem to have if you're Arkansas, because that means you're very, very talented. Like, you have options. Sometimes it's just kind of decided. You already know based on how you build this thing. Well, it's going to have to work itself out for Arkansas. Good problem to have. If it isn't clear, it doesn't mean that you don't have anybody. It means that you have several somebodies in Arkansas's case, if that makes sense. And again, like the lazy answer, but the true one here is that this will work itself out over the course of the season. It'll happen naturally. It'll happen organically. I think about the way Cal talks about his captains, where he doesn't name them, but on the first game, the ref comes and says, hey, captains to midcourt, and those guys just go, and then that is what it is. It just kind of happens organically. I feel the same thing about this, although Cal has some say in it because he'll draw up the play, he'll make the call, whatever. But I don't know. If we just left it at, well, it's going to work itself out, what the hell are we going to talk about today? Right. So we got to hypothesize a little bit. Let's do both here. So let's talk about establishing the Alpha Dog pecking order. Let me get this off the screen since you guys have read that by now. There we go. But yeah, let's talk about that. Like, let's talk about the Alpha Dog. Let's talk about the pecking order. And then let's do some projected role allocation. And then you guys can laugh at me while I try to do the math with the minutes, because I've had a hell of a time with this, and I'll explain why a little bit later. But, the biggest unknown for me when it comes to the pecking order in terms of the alpha, and there's a couple different ways to look at this. Do you think alpha, like, your best player, the guy at the top of the scouting report, whatever? Because if that's the case, it's probably Carter or Acuff, right? But if we're talking about Alpha Dog, as in the guy who gets the last shot, that might be a different conversation. So that's what we have to figure out. And when it comes to, like, who gets the last shot, is this about seniority? Is it about talent? Or is it about matchups? Because in a vacuum, if I'm thinking about the last shot, I gotta be honest with you guys, I immediately think about your two freshman guards, Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas. They're both dogs, and they can create, they can get their own shots off whenever they want. And they're probably the two best at it on this roster. By the end of the season, I think it's almost certainly going to be one or both of those guys. But will that fly early on with the returning core that you have? That I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm DJ Wagner, I'm saying, hey, young guns, like, I had the rock in my hands the final possessions of a Sweet 16 game last season. If I'm Carter Knox, I'm saying, man, I put 20 on Texas Tech's head, and I'm assumed to be draft pick just like you guys. So back of the line, rookies. You know what I mean? And, if you have a matchup that you like on the block, Malik Ewan is the best bet to get you a bucket. You just got to dump it down there into him. But he's got go-to capability. He's got need a bucket late, get him the rock and let him cook capabilities, and he's an upperclassman. So this is sort of a test of, the early togetherness of this group. And it's going to be, the thing is, it's going to be put under the magnifying glass right away. And it's not just about these exhibitions, because you'll try different things, but I'm saying you travel to Michigan State for your second game of the year. Who's it going to be? Because that's probably going to be a game that comes down to the final possessions. And, while I would lean towards a returner by default, maybe DJ, honestly, because he was quite literally that guy last year. We saw it in the tournament. It's your season's on the line, and you got Nelly Davis with 30. Carter's gone for 20. Jonas has been great, and TB throughout the course of the stretch run of the season, whatever. And it was DJ who had the rock the final possessions of the both, regulation and overtime. So there's that. We can't just overlook the well-known fact that John Calipari, though, he has no problem at all letting his freshmen rock in those situations right away. The track record is a mile long. We could name Frosh after Frosh after Frosh that he's done this with, but they were going to sink or swim with Boogie last year before he got hurt. Was he not that guy? So opening night, my pecking order for the Alpha Dog, the last shot getter, I still got to go Acuff, man. I just, the way he played on Sunday, I feel like he looked like a lottery pick to me. He looked really good. And I would have to go with him. DJ Wagner's, it's just a slight step behind. I think you could probably flip a coin there. Carter Knox, third. I think that probably seems low. Again, he might be your overall alpha on this team, but for final shot purposes, I just think it's going to be a guard who's got some more wiggle and some more ISO creation. Malik Thomas has got to be on this list too. I got to be honest with you. I do not think it will be long before he kind of forces himself into that closing lineup as a top, get the ball in his hands late option, because he's an absolute killer. Like, he's got to reel it in a little bit. He's going to have some streakiness to him. He's going to have some unbelievable highlight reel plays, followed by just some killer turnovers where you're like, whoa, brother. So I think it might take a little bit longer for him to kind of settle into a role like that. But if you were just to say, okay, one-on-one ISO, you got to get a shot off. Who do you want it to be? Who's going to get you the best look, or who can make the tough shots? Leak would be my answer. I'm not going to lie to you. Hey, today's episode of the Pod at the Palace is presented by our friends over at Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas. If you're in Northwest Arkansas or the River Valley, have Walter Christmas Lighting install and set up your house with professional Halloween and Christmas lighting like you've never seen before. They provide all the materials, any color, any pattern. They install the lights. They do free maintenance throughout the holiday season, and they come and do all the takedowns for you in January. If you sign up for Halloween lights, you will also get your Christmas lights for 50% off. So just text our guy Brett for a free estimate at 479-459-1380. You can also check out their website at walterchristmaslighting.com. Like them on Facebook by scanning the QR code on your screen. It's Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas, your local holiday lighting experts. Okay, so the second part of this is, role allocation. What is it that Arkansas is going to be asking these guys to do? What is their role? Like, if you have the short scouting report or whatever, what is it going to say on the personnel page for these opponents about Arkansas? And I tend to think that this is sort of straightforward, I guess, with this team. The minutes are complicated. The lineups are undecided, but I think the rotation is pretty clear as, where everyone fits and what Arkansas is trying to do. So the way I look at this, if you think about your returners, for example, DJ Wagner, what's his role? He's the leader. He's the leader out there. Maybe not your best player, maybe not your most talented player, but everybody's going to turn to him. He's the calming presence out there on the floor. He's the guy with the most experience in the SEC coming back, an extension of the coaching staff, a lockdown perimeter defender. And yeah, he'll have his moments. He'll have his nights where he's that dude offensively. Carter, like I said, kind of the top dog, top of the scouting report, versatile wing, capable of an explosion, the guy who's supposed to make the jump if Arkansas is going to reach their ceiling. Billy Richmond, the junkyard dog, right? The master of the dirty work, impacts the game beyond the stat sheet, and downhill Bill. And then that versatile defender who, he's 6'6" with a 6'8" wingspan, and they'll put him on your point guard and completely take him out of the game. TB, he's that unicorn, right? How many people in this league are like TB? And it's kind of like him and Cal were saying yesterday at SEC Media Day. Well, there's just a finite number of guys who are capable of being different when they're out there on the floor. and Trevin is one of them. And Cal's been very, very bullish. He said, hey, he needs to be a walking double-double, 4 to 5 blocks. Before that, after the practice in the summer, what was he saying about Trevin? He was saying if you're going to be a team that can do something special, you got to have multiple dudes, right, who are top 10 level players. And he said, Trevin's one of them. We got to find out who the other one is. It's high praise. So, the expectations are high here for TB. With the transfers, Malik Ewan, you already know the drill. Offensive matchup nightmare at his position, right? You can run the offense through him. He can do point forward stuff. He can stretch the floor. You can throw it into him. He can face up. He can work off the bounce. Just going to be a terror for opposing defenses at the 5. And then Pringle is the exact opposite, but the perfect complement of a paint protector, a versatile defender, switchable, a pick and roll defender, just a tough physical presence in there. We understand the complement of those guys. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel and have them do a bunch of things that they haven't done before. That's why they brought them in together. The freshman, I see Darius Acuff, and I think, hey, that's your dynamic playmaker, your classic John Calipari guard who comes in as a freshman, flashes that one-and-done capability and just has the ability to take over at any moment. And, if you watched him on Sunday, you saw a guy who, it's very cliche to say, but like he doesn't look like a freshman. He's never sped up. He's never overwhelmed, rarely makes mistakes on the offensive end of the floor, always makes the right read in the right spots, hits the guys in stride with the passes. He's initiating. He's scoring when he needs to score. Just doing a little bit of everything. I still want to see more of him on the defensive end of the floor, but he is going to be very, very good for Arkansas this season. Malik Thomas, you guys know the drill, man. Microwave scorer. Whether that's off the bench or, the first unit, whatever, that is his job. Score. Get buckets, young fella. You need to be a little bit more efficient with your dribbles or whatever, sure, but he is in there to score. And, yeah, you need him to rebound, and he's proven to be, I think, an underrated passer. He's a little bit better of a defender than I thought he was going to be, but get buckets, man. That's you. That's your game. And then Isaiah Sealy, he's kind of that second unit sizzle, right? You think that you've made your way through Arkansas's bench, and then they bring this kid in. It's like, oh, we can take a breather. They're bringing the 4-star in here, and then he's the guy who's getting steals and doing windmills on folks. And you think, all right, he's probably just going to be stand in the corner and shoot some threes or whatever until he shot fakes you and drives it baseline and dunks on you. The pleasant surprise is what I would call Isaiah Sealy if we're thinking about his role this season. And we'll see how it all plays out, man. But I think that we kind of have a pretty good understanding of what to expect from these guys when they get out there on the floor, for the most part. Hey, folks, your new Arkansas hangout, it's Goat Lab Red. Goat Lab Red in Fayetteville. It's the place to be for Razorback pre- and post-game. We did our pre, during, and post-game there last week for the Arkansas-Tennessee football game. Had a great time there. We were there before primetime at the Palace to preview that. The wings are great. The beer is cold, and you can get you a Razorback, a Tusk Light. You can grab a signature burger today. Then you can come back on a Sunday for all-you-can-eat pancakes with your choice of 2 Goat Lab brews or 2 mimosas for just $16. We'll see you Saturday out at Goat Lab Red. It's your new game day destination in Fayetteville. All right, so now to the tricky part, man. I gotta take a sip here. Okay. Let's talk minutes distribution, and then let's call it a day. So when I started looking at this roster, I was going, all right, man, this guy's going to play 30 minutes a night. So will he. Oh, shoot, I'm out of minutes because I'm trying to split 200 between 9 guys. So I really had to go do my research because in the grand scheme of things, it's really not a crazy amount of mouths to feed at all to think that Arkansas could consistently play 8-9 guys and keep them happy. I guess the thing that makes Arkansas a little bit different is they do have, I think, 8 of those 9 who truly feel like starter level players who could command starter level minutes. Some teams, you like the way that they're recruited and put together, you have your 5 starters, you know who that is, and you might have a 6-man who's capable of swinging in and out of the lineup, but the other guys, 7, 8, 9, they know that they're a step behind. They know that they're role players. They'll accept 12, 15, 18 minutes, whatever. And they're okay with that. And I look at Arkansas and I think, okay, DJ, Darius, Leak, Carter, Billy, TB, Malik, Nick, every one of those guys could start. And if they don't, you certainly think they're going to play those type of minutes. So it does feel a little bit tricky. And, the truth is, because I had to go look, I was like, how do other teams do this? Is my math wrong? What are we doing? Not that many guys who play crazy minutes. There's really not that many who do this. It happened with Arkansas last year because of injuries. And, we just got used to it the past few years because of Muss. When he would finally find a starting lineup that would work, all those guys were playing like 35 minutes, and you'd have maybe one big and one guard who would come in just long enough for somebody to get a sip of water. But I went and looked, and there were 21 players in the SEC last year who averaged over 30 minutes per game. So you hear that, and you're like, well, that seems like that's almost 24 guys. There's 16 teams in the league. So less than 1.5 players per team averaging over 30 minutes per game. So Florida, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Tennessee, LSU, and Arkansas with DJ Wagner and Nelly Davis were the 6 schools who had multiple guys averaging over 30 minutes per game last season. There was not a single school out there that had more than 2 who had averaged 30 minutes per game or more. So keep that in mind as we go through this. And, even with Arkansas last year, you got to remember Cal didn't have a choice but to play certain guys a ton. You only had 9 on your roster that you were willing to play, and then 8 when Boogie went down, and then 7 when Adu went down. And we know that, Nelly was hurt at times, and Jonas was hurt for a long stretch, and TB and Z both had ankles at different times. And so it was kind of, one thing after another. And really, it was just DJ and Billy and Carter who were essentially healthy the entire year. So if Arkansas had that, all 9 of their core guys last season, that minutes distribution would have looked a lot different. So I don't think it was necessarily in the cards for DJ and Nelly to never leave the floor, but how the hell could you take them off once Boogie was out of there? And then especially after Thero went down, because even when they were just playing with 8 for a while there, it was like, man, TB's barely playing. And at the time we kind of understood, but then once you put him in there, he looked like one of the best players in the SEC. So it's just one of those things that is, it's easier said than done. So what I did is I went back and I looked at the NCAA tournament minutes distribution for Arkansas. And then I looked at Cal's last year at Kentucky, particularly with that backcourt that had a lot of mouths to feed there, which, say what you want, BBN, about, who started and, Reed and Rob and all, whatever. But if we're projecting how John Calipari might distribute these minutes, what do you want from me, right? The NCAA tournament average. Let me pull this up real quick. Let's see. There it is. So here you have it. This is with Boogie back. So it was an 8-man rotation for Arkansas. And a couple qualifiers here. Yes, I know that things are tighter rotation-wise in the NCAA tournament, but I feel like this was the closest representation to how things looked once this team had most of its pieces back and had figured it out. I started to use non-con, right? But Jonas was hurt early. Carter and Billy were so far behind. There were times they didn't play a ton. TB was barely playing. So that's not really a great picture of what it looked like either. I'll also say what skews this March Madness rotation is that Big Z sucked and he was unplayable at the end of the year. And, whether it's Pringle or Ewan or whoever as your second big man, like, he's going to be playing far more than 8.6 minutes per game, as you can see here. But at any rate, you had DJ at 37 minutes per game, Nelly at 32.6, Boogie at 17.6, Carter 26.6, Billy 21, Trevin 31, Jonas 31.3, and Big Z 8.6. Those are in your 3 NCAA tournament games. So, I look at this off the top if I'm thinking about, this year. And I'm like, okay, well, you add a ninth man to this equation in Sealy, who would take some of that perimeter overload off. And then you take a rotation, a piece probably off your two primary bigs, assuming either of your transfers are more playable than Z at the end of the year, right? It's like you see Trevin at 31 and Jonas at 31. You take a 5-minute rotation off of each one of those guys and add it to Big Z, and then it kind of evens out with what you might wind up getting between Trevin, Nick, and Ewan. So there's that. Now, what about Cal's last team at Kentucky? Because if you thought doing a 9-man rotation with this group that he has right here is tricky, this is even more complicated. So let me see. Where did I put that one? Yeah, that's it. Okay. So, okay, can we look at Antonio Reeves, Reed Shepard, Rob Dillingham, DJ Wagner, and Justin Edwards, for example? And can you look at that? So Reeves, 31.5 minutes per game. Rob Dillingham, 23.3. It's a lottery pick. Reed Shepard, 28.9, number 2 overall pick in the draft. DJ Wagner, 26 minutes per game as a true freshman. Then you had Edwards there at 21.5. You can even add sophomore year Adu to that mix, who was playing 21.3 minutes per game, and add Sealy into this. So you take those guys and you look at like DJ, Acuff, Leak, Carter, Billy, and Sealy. So the games played here makes this a little bit wonky. I recognize that, but still, like the minutes will differ. But my point is, there's precedent for Cal having a bunch of guards and wings and being able to figure it out. Look at the minutes that Rob, Reed, and DJ got. I'll read this again. Rob Dillingham, 23.3 minutes per game. Reed Shepard, 28.9, and DJ Wagner, 25.8. So theoretically, you would think off the top, it's like, okay, you could play Acuff and Leak, a little more, and Sealy having a smaller role than DJ, but nowhere near the, like the 20 minutes per game marker, and you could make these things work. Maybe those get distributed out to him and to Carter and to Billy, since they're going to command more than maybe what Edwards and Thero did, or will they? Could TB be around that Trey Mitchell range that you see there, 30.2 minutes per game? On the surface, you look at it and you think, okay, maybe he should, because they don't have another 4 on the roster. But if you're going to feed all these other mouths, like Carter's going to have to probably play some at the 4, and Pringle or Ewan will have to play some at the 4. Like, you're going to have to get creative in ways like that. But then you take the minutes split between, if you look at Big Z, 11.7 minutes per game. Aaron Bradshaw, 13.8. Onyenso, 18.6. And you just split that between Pringle and Ewan, and those guys get larger slices of the pie. So it seems like it's clean to do. And after I did all this, I was like, okay, this is going to be, I think I'll be able to do this pretty easily. I'm not going to lie, though. Like, I'm still not crazy about it. So let me pull up what I have here. Here you go. So remember this as we start talking about it. This is full season. So it's not how I think the minutes are going to shake out against Michigan State the first weekend of the year, or against Kentucky in a particular game late in the season. Understand, like, guys are going to miss games here and there. Others will play, and that will pick up their minutes. Foul trouble factors into this. Early season blowouts where you might get a guy out of there, you might get into your bench a little bit more. That will factor into this, right? So what I should have done is like projected what I think the minutes will look like against Cincinnati and then do for the whole season, but it's whatever. DJ, I've got it 30 minutes per game. He's still going to be leaned on as your leader. I think we understand that. But my thought process, man, he played 34 minutes per game, and then there were several games down the stretch of the season where he didn't come off the floor at all, 40 minutes. I just think Cal is going to be able to much more comfortably get him a breather here and there, so he isn't carrying cement blocks for shoes late in games. He was worn out. Like, we want to be mad about some of the shots he missed late in games and, different things there. It's like, dude, he had to have been gassed. You don't have to do that this year. How many times did Cal go to the podium in the second half of the season and say, we've got to get DJ a blow in the second half. We can't have him out there for 20 minutes in the second half. Well, now you don't have to. Play Acuff and Thomas together. Why not? Play Billy at a guard position. Play Carter at a guard position. Play Sealy more. You've got options to work with if, knock on wood, and God willing, you stay healthy. So yeah, I think he's still going to play a lot of minutes. I don't know why he wouldn't. He has his first 2 years, but I do kind of get the sense that it will be a little bit less than it was in years past. Darius Acuff, I have at 28. And here's my thought process. He's going to have games where he doesn't really come off the floor because he's that good for you. He's also going to have games where I think he might play a little bit less because he doesn't want to defend or he's got a bad matchup there. But if you think that's crazy, if you're like Darius Acuff, you just said he's going to be a lottery pick. You ain't got him playing 28 minutes per game. Well, if you think that's crazy, Cal played Reed Damn Shepherd 29 minutes per game. Okay. And part of that was because of the other guards that were around him. Trey Johnson and Jeremiah Fears, 2 top 10 lottery picks, were the only SEC freshmen to average over 30 minutes per game last season. Asa Newell at Georgia was at 29. None of those guys had the depth of talent around them that Darius Acuff does. So this is really not that far-fetched, especially if you consider Cal's love for DJ Wagner and not wanting to take him off the floor. The minutes got to come from somewhere, man. Malik Thomas, I have at 23, and I can feel people saying the same thing. Dude, you've said he's been the most impressive player out there. Not playing more than 23? Well, he's been getting these Rob Dillingham comps left and right. Billy Richmond on the Hog Pod compared him to Rob Dillingham the other day. Well, Rob Dillingham played 23.3 minutes per game for John Calipari as a true freshman. So is it that crazy? You picking up what I'm putting down here? You think about these guys individually, you're like, oh, yeah, shoot, man. Malik Thomas could play 30. Yeah, Acuff's going to play 30 plus. But then you start going through this entire thing, and you're like, I guess I got to take 1 or 2 from here. That way I can give them there. It's tricky. Carter Knox, I've got at 28. This is what he averaged in SEC play last year. Only that was in a rotation that was 8 deep at best, but usually it was like 6 or 7. So he had to play more out of necessity. This year, he's going to play those minutes because he's just that damn good. So in a way, I feel like that's upping his playing time, or maybe a compliment to him, because it's not like, well, there's 6, somebody's got to play. It's if anybody's going to be taking minutes from someone else, it's probably going to be Carter. Billy, this is where people are going to get mad at me. I understand. I've got him at 20 minutes per game. Feels low. I understand. I think many nights Billy Richmond is going to play more minutes than this. I do. If I'm being honest, someone had to be lower here. There are 200 minutes to go around. And just to tell you guys the truth, in the live action that we've seen so far, whether it be the pro day or the full scrimmage the other day in Hot Springs, he has stood out the least. And Leak has stood out the most. And Carter has been coming on. Like, these other guys have looked great, have looked exceptional. I'm not saying Billy's looked bad, but there have been long segments where I've been taking a bunch of notes and writing down all these things. Oh, so-and-so did this. Oh, I really like that. And then I look down, I haven't written anything down about Billy. Now, I understand that his game is a little bit different, right? I am not worried about Billy Richmond. You know what he brings that transcends beyond the box score. He's going to be the type of guy where there are going to be games where you just can't take him off the floor. We had that last year where his energy was so contagious and he was getting steals. He was getting downhill in transition. It was infectious, man. It captivated the entire team, the entire arena. He's going to have those nights. Absolutely. He probably will have some of those nights too, where he's turning it over like crazy, getting a little bit too sped up. Teams are sagging off of him and he's not able to knock down those jumpers. And those minutes might be a little bit lower. So we'll see what this looks like. But if you're looking at it and you're going, what? Only 20 for Billy? Well, it's more than he played last year. It's right about in line with the minutes that he played in the NCAA tournament last season. And I just ask you to look around the rest of this rotation here. Tell me where the added minutes will come from. Who are you going to take them from? The answer would probably be Sealy, right? It's like, oh, you're giving him some minutes there, just give him to Billy. Maybe that's what they do. Maybe that's what they do. And that could solve your issue right there. TB, I've got him at 26 minutes per game. That would be his career high. Right now it's 25.7. So it's just over what he averaged in 2023. I think TB is going to have several games where he plays over 30 minutes per game. But I also think, given his, his injury history, his foul tendencies, I imagine that he's going to have some low nights because of that. That brings this average down some. But if you were to say, okay, Arkansas is playing who they play, Texas in their, home finale at Bud Walton Arena with the chance to lock up the SEC regular season crown, I would say Trevin's going to play 35 minutes if he stays out of foul trouble and everything else. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. I have Ewan and Pringle as a 50-50 split at the 5. I realize it's probably not going to be that way, but I just, guys, I really don't see someone emerging and grabbing the lion's share of the minutes here at the center spot just yet. Do you? You know what I mean? Like, I think some nights that they're just going to roll heavier with Pringle because he does all the little things and they need interior defense or some more versatility on that end or defensive rebounding. It's like, all right, yeah, we're rolling heavy with Nick. And I think other nights they're going to roll with Malik Ewan because he's killing a team and he's in the zone offensively and they can't do anything with him. And he's just a matchup nightmare. Pretty much every night, I just think both are going to play quite a bit, though. And I thought it was interesting that Cal said he wanted to play those two together in the scrimmage. He wound up not doing it, but if he does that, that could help a little bit. In the end, I think it evens out between the two. Is kind of my thought process there. And Pringle, I think he played like 25, 26 minutes a game at South Carolina this past year on that really good Alabama team he was on that went to the Final Four. I think he averaged like 18 minutes per game and he started for him. So he hasn't been a guy that commands 30 minutes or whatever. Malik Ewan in his breakout season at Florida State, who stunk and didn't have a whole lot of pieces, with him there, he averaged 26 a game there. So I don't think 20 and 20 is like insulting or anything like that. And so, and I know you guys see Isaiah Sealy here. I've got him at 5 minutes per game. You probably see that and you say, well, why the hell even include him in the rotation, Curtis? My line of thinking here, remember, this is a season-long average. So I bet early on in some of these big non-conference games, well, he's probably going to get some coaches' DMPs, if I'm being honest with you. But I imagine there's going to be some games where he plays 18 or 20 minutes or maybe more because they're blowing somebody out. I also imagine there's going to be some cases where I could see him getting like a first half rotation, a couple minutes, and the team goes on a 4-0 run and, Cal tightens it up in the second half or gets him out of there and we got to go right back to Carter. We got to go right back to Billy, whatever. Because you can tell from the way he talks about him, he thinks he's going to be special. There are things that Isaiah does that can't be taught, but there's still some things that they really want him to work on for him to take that next step and fully elevate himself into that core rotation. Right? Not that he's not capable, not that he won't play, not that he can't help him. And he has been awesome in every opportunity we've seen him. Right now, like I said, he has shined more than other guys who I have projected to get more minutes, but I'm also listening to what Cal is saying when it comes to these things. So how quickly does he make the adjustments that they want him to make? That could determine some things. But again, I'll say, if you want him to play more minutes on average, that's fine. Who are you taking him from here? You know what I mean? That's the crux of it all. That's the crux of it all. And, when I think about Sealy, I remember Jordan Burks, he played in like 20 games, but he averaged, 7 minutes per game as a freshman at Kentucky. And there were times where there were some injuries. He started a few games or played bigger minutes. And then when they were at full strength or, hitting their stride or whatever, some games he wouldn't play at all. Maybe it's like that. I don't know. But it's tough because here's what I don't know. Because like I said, if you're looking at, like, oh, well, Billy should be getting more minutes. Well, you could just take 5 from Sealy and all of a sudden he's playing 25 minutes a game. But I don't know how you can how can you watch Isaiah Sealy right now and not expect him to get opportunities? I'm not there. So maybe we'll run this back after the 2 exhibitions and just see what kind of leash Cal has for him and the opportunities he gives him there. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. you know, if he isn't a factor, you could add that pretty much anywhere else in the lineup, but I think he's going to play. So that's kind of where I have it. And I kind of feel that way regardless of who they wind up starting, what lineup combinations they wind up using. Here's what you got to think about at the end of the day, though. Some of these guys are going to miss games. You know, somebody's going to have a sore back. Somebody's going to get the flu. Somebody's going to roll an ankle. You know, knock on wood, they don't have anything that's long-term or serious or whatever. Or it doesn't happen for big games, but that's just the nature of the beast. How often do you go look at a season box score and you see, you know, every single guy in the rotation played 35 games? It's just not a thing. So that's also something that impacts here. And, you know, maybe a better reflection is total minutes or whatever. I ain't got time for all that. So there we have it. Okay. That's it. That's all I got for you. 40 minutes. That feels about right. Fun stuff though, man. I nerd out on these things. I know that I do, but just you wait until we start having some actual data from the basketball that they're gonna play. That's what I'm really excited about. But gonna get out of here for the day. Appreciate everybody, man, for tuning in. As always, subscribe to the Inside Arkansas YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And you can find the Pod at the Palace wherever you find your podcasts in audio form, Apple, Spotify, anywhere that you listen, we can be found there. And we can also be found here bright and early tomorrow morning. We'll get some recruiting mixed in there. I know we've been getting real excited about this team, but people still want to hear about recruiting. We'll have a recruiting segment for tomorrow. I promise you, don't worry about that. But I'm going to get out of here for now. It's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas on the Pod at the Palace. Everybody have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow.